What's up, y'all? Today I'm going to be talking about framing, what goes into framing, what is framing, what you wear, the items you use, the tools, and the structure of building a wall, which I built a little one behind me right here. It's small, just something to get a little idea of it, but let's get started. So framing is basically the skeletal of the framers. Most of the time we refer to skeleton as the skeleton body, the structure of it, just the base work of it for the foundation and the weight that it holds on the rest that you go into it. For example, the roofing, the walls, the foundation, just basically all those stuff that you need when it comes to framing a house. Usually when it comes to building one, you need tools for it, you need to wear the proper equipment, just to make sure that you're not getting yourself in danger and getting anybody else that is in the way and harm as well. I'll show you guys a little bit of the tools we use in the framing industry. Get a little close up. That is a handsaw, circular saw is most referred to. They're using electric tools nowadays, but usually when it comes to those electric tools, they have battery packs. They still have some of those circular saws that you can connect into an extension cord, and those usually work on the frame site, on the job site. Usually you have a box with electricity that's going to support the whole design of what you're going into and the way you're going to use it. When it comes to circular saw, you just want to make sure you're safely using it, hands on there. Some of them are now programmed to stop from fingers holds and stuff like that, just so you don't cut yourself, hurt yourself, or make a jolt back to cut you. Another thing we would use is I got it right here, a nail gun. That's what's going to support the house that you're building on. Nails go in, bam. It keeps the sturdiness. These nails also have galvanized nails. There's also different types of nails that you will use. They basically are designed to, over time, not rust, get damaged, or break easily as much. When it comes to framing, you use nails a lot, you use screws a lot, bolts, all that sort of stuff. It's fun as well. You also, on yourself, when you have a tool belt, you'll have your tool belt, you have a speed square. Speed square is basically going to help you out when it comes to measurements, making sure you do straight lines, not these crooked lines that could mess up the framework and the measurements that you have already in mind. You'll also have yourself a little handy dandy measuring tape right there. You can use other brands as well. There's a bunch of brands people use. This is one I use, the Stanley one as well. So that when it comes to measuring the height of it, the length of what you're building, making sure that those measurements are right as well when it comes to construction blueprints and the plans that you go along with as well. Another thing you'll have in that tool belt is a pencil. These are carpentry pencils, one of the basic things you need, just so that way you're marking things right, making sure everything's going well, and that you have something to write off as well when it comes to those measurements. We'll also have a chalk line on our person. Chalk line is basically if you're working with sheeting, the sheeting is the sheet goes outside the walls. People use sheeting for roofing as well. Basically, it's the plywood. You'll attach one end to one end, the other one you'll drag back, and then you'll flick up, and it'll leave a little chalk line mark. That's why it's called the chalk line. Basically, that's what it helps you, so that way you don't have to do a pencil, draw it all the way straight down. That chalk line will help you for longer measurements, especially when it comes to different lengths as well. Help you on that. On the site, have to wear one of those hard hats right there. There's different kinds of hard hats. As long as you have a hard hat, you're basically all good. It's just so that way if anything falls on your head, you don't really hurt your head, get injured by it. I've been on the side when it comes to things falling. It happens. And they've saved my life, honestly. You also need some of these glasses, construction glasses. Most people, when you start working and doing it for a while, you basically just wear whatever glasses, just so that way none of the dirt, dust gets into your eyes. These are also just safety things, safety guidelines that you have to go into framing. You don't want to get yourself injured, and then next you know you're blind for a couple of days and stuff like that. You'll also have to wear gloves. There's different carpentry gloves, masonry gloves, and stuff like that. It's basically so your hands stay clean, you don't get any cuts. I've seen people lose thumbs before. It happens, especially when you're not using that equipment properly. It can happen and be dangerous. But those are most of the things that you need on you, especially when it comes to framing. You need gloves, your tool belt. Right there is where you're going to have that speed square. You're going to have your tape measure, and then a chalk line, some pencils, and then you always have to have a hammer. Hammer is an important thing as well. Everybody knows what a hammer looks like, sees like. And then sometimes you're going to need yourself a drill. I actually do have a drill on me. This is just my drill at home that I use. Just basically sometimes when you have to deal with screws and stuff like that, and when it comes to bolts that are already in there, you just gonna have to bolt down some things. Sometimes screws are preferred in most places, just because they don't break as easily. They like last a little bit longer. But that's why you also have those nail guns when it comes to wood and building that foundation. It's also less expensive as well. I myself usually Carhartt shirt, work pants, so that way you don't get cuts and injuries of like stuff like that. And I got my steel toe boots. Steel toe boots are basically so that way you don't damage your toes, anything falls on you as well, you're all good. But that's mostly the equipment that you should be dealing with, the gear that you'll be wearing, and let's get down to the framing of it. So basically here, I built a little wall. So these are the words we use in construction. Like I said, the skeleton of the whole structure. I'll basically break it down. On the bottom, you have your bottom plate. Your bottom plate is basically the foundation. It's going to go on top of your foundation. So if you didn't know, you usually use a green plate. It's a pressurized plate. Basically, that green plate was created and put into some kind of chemical, so that way between those, the foundation that you have, which is your concrete, and then that 2x4, it stays sturdy. Nothing happens with rust, getting damaged, stuff like that. You'll also have your 2x4s as the wall. Depending what your documentation, your blueprints might say, you always use 2x4s, 2x6s, just depends what it says. And that's going to be your studs. That's what they go as, the studs. And then you're going to have your top plate. Your top plate's basically just the way it is, the way it's set. It's your top plate that keeps everything sturdy. Depending on the plan that you have and the design that you go for, they're going to go for a different kind of variation of how to do it. But this is a wall. Behind it is that sheet. It's the sheeting that goes around it. We usually say the plywood you'll use. I'm pretty sure it's a 3/4 sheet that you'll be using, a half sheet. So you'll be using those around there. But yeah, that's the structure of one. It'll be sturdy. You build those all the way around. If you throw some windows in there, it's all easy. Windows are pretty easy when it comes to building that foundation. You just basically cut out a little box. And that's it. That's what we have today. Thank you. Have a good one.